Hello everyone, so this is video number 2. What I want to do here is I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the equipment I use. Now when I go to individual shots, or shoots, excuse me, events, I'm going to actually tell you what I'm using there too, but I just want to kind of show you my kit that I use most of the time. And again, talk about, different lenses and why we use different lenses. So first, I'm a Sony shooter. I tried Canon first, and I like Canon, and I know a lot of people that shoot with Canon. I think Canon's great. I know a couple people that shoot with Nikon, not as many. And again, they do really good work, and it seems to work for them. I chose Sony because a lot of times if I'm shooting high school football or things like that, it's pretty dark. And a lot of times in gyms, it's just not got the best lighting. And Sony is one of the best at, like the camera I use has a dual sensor. And so a lot of it, you can get really good image quality without all the grain when you have a high ISO. It's really good in low light. So that's why I started shooting Sony. I've been shooting Sony now for about 2 or 3 years. And I just prefer Sony and I like it. Again, I think that you could do this with just about any type of camera as long as you can get decent lenses for it. That's another thing with Sony. You can buy non-native lenses. A lot of times with Canon, you have to buy Canon lenses and things like that. With Sony, you can buy Tamron and Sigma and all the other stuff. And you'll see that I have some of those in my arsenal as well. It's kind of like with tools. If I need a one-off tool, I'm going to go to Harbor Freight or something cheap, because I'm only going to use that tool once or not very often. If it's something I'm going to use all the time, well then I'm going to buy the native Sony lens because it's just better. So first off, the camera I have is an A7R5. Again, I don't want to get too into the weeds on what cameras. Maybe I'll do a different video about that. But it's one of the higher end resolution cameras that Sony has. It shoots at, I believe, 61 megapixels per shot. So I can really crop in on things and I don't lose detail. So that's why I like it. But if your camera is only a 24 megapixel or something like that, just fine. Again, you can do whatever you want with a lot of things. The lens is where you want to spend your money. I could have an older camera, but if I had a great lens, I could do everything. If you could have a $1 million camera body, but if the lenses you put on them are the kit lenses and bad lenses, you're not going to get great pictures. So the lens is where it's at. So most of the time, I use a 70 to 200. Again, if I'm anything outside or I'm shooting from distance, sometimes even in gyms, if I'm not on a baseline or something like that, again, I use my 70 to 200. It is the best lens, and it's a 2.8. And again, if you don't know a lot about aperture, the lower the number, the more wide open it is, the more light comes in. Plus, that makes everything behind them out of focus. And for me as a sports photographer, or for you for shooting sports, you want to make sure that the action is right on where you're trying to shoot. I want the player that I'm trying to shoot to be in full, clarity, and then everything else behind him, the crowd, the bleachers, everything else, I want that out of focus, because then your eyes don't know where to go. And so when you look at a picture, and I see sometimes people shooting 5.6 or 8 or something when it's outside, because they're trying to overcompensate because it's so bright outside. That's fine, but then everything is in focus and I don't know what to look at. So I almost entirely shoot everything in 2.8 or lower, as far as sports. I've shot next to, at like University of Pittsburgh and stuff with a couple guys that shoot at 5.6 with a really long lens. We're talking about like 2 to 600 lens, things like that. And their pictures look awesome because you can blur in post as well on Lightroom and some other things. And again, so you can do whatever you want. There's ways around it, but again, I prefer a 2.8 because, again, a lot of Friday nights or bad gyms, the lighting quality is bad. So this lets me go pretty close at 70 and then be able to zoom all the way into 200. And with the Sony 2, I can set it up with these buttons that you can see running around here. I can set that up to crop sensor mode, so I can even get further in than 200. I'm not sure what the exact is off the top of my head, whether it's 250 or something like that. But again, I can get really far in. So unless I'm shooting football and they're clear on the other side of the field and there's a tackle on that line, then yeah, the picture is not going to be as well, but I pretty much can get it everywhere else. So I use this lens for volleyball, football, things like that. Again, if I can't sit on a baseline, this is where I want to be, okay? And that's what I use for predominantly. I love this lens. It's my favorite lens, and it's the Sony native, and it's the they have 2 generations of the in the E-mount series. They have the number 1, and again, you can get that one a little cheaper. The auto tracking isn't as good, and then this is the newer one that I believe came out like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, something like that. And the auto tracking is much better, and it's quick. I love it. Okay. The next lens that I'm gonna show you is so that was 70-200 2.8. This is a Sigma, and this is 20-70 2.8. So again, a lot of times I could go to any sports event and carry 2 lenses, and these would be my 2 lenses. Because if I'm shooting on a baseline, I can get really wide all the way out to 20, or if I'm shooting a student section or anything like that, again, this is gonna help me because I can get really wide and get all the action in. Or if I'm under a baseline, I can get to a nice 35 millimeter to 50 millimeter, and then I have that ability to zoom in, so if that guy's coming up to shoot that dunk, I can zoom all the way in and again see that, and so and then crop back out or whatever I need to do again. So if I had 2 lenses in my kit and that's all I could buy, and because I'm working with a budget or I'm trying to save, that's the only 2 lenses I would carry: a 20-70 2.8 and a 70-200 2.8. There are other manufacturers like Tamron has I believe it's 70-180 2.8, and I actually had that lens to start with, and it's a good lens. And so again, if you don't have I think that the 70-200 is right around $3,000. So if you don't have $3,000, I believe that Tamron 70-180 is like $800. It's a really good lens. You could take really good pictures with that and have paid content and have that kind of stuff. Again, those are the 2 lenses I would have. So the other lenses that I would carry, just in case, which normally I do carry, would be, I also have a Sigma 50 1.4. The reason why I carry this is a lot of times before a football game or something like that, I have the opportunity to walk around the court or walk around the football field. With a 1.4, pretty much just their face is in focus and everything else is out of focus, right? And you get these really just beautiful cinematic pictures, okay? I can get way close to the person and just get the face or something like that. Zoom way in, it's a super cool picture. Or if I'm in a locker room. And at a 1.4, again, the locker room can be really dark, and I don't have to use, because we can't use flash in sports photography. I can use the 1.4, again, get pretty close, and I don't have to have much lighting, and I don't have to kick my ISO way up to where I get grainy pictures. So this is the other lens, or I do know people, and I actually want to buy one, it's on my next list, to a 35 millimeter 1.4, and they'll actually shoot that from the baseline for basketball games and stuff. Again, just because you're going to get really killer pictures, really vibrant, because it's letting a lot of light in, and you don't have to go high ISO. So again, these are great. These would be accessories. So if you can get a 35 or a 50 or even 85 millimeter 1.4, again, you can get some really neat pictures. It's what I like to get the candid pictures with. The guy on the sideline or something like that. I can get really close to him, get that facial or that coach, and get that gritty where he's yelling or whatever. Really cool pictures. I can do that with the 2.8 too, but this is just another complete look to it. And again, if you've been around for a little while, you know what I'm saying. Some other lenses that you could possibly talk about I've heard of people using 130, 1.8s, things like that. Again, any of that works. The biggest thing is that 2.8 or lower, because a lot of times a kit lens is going to be, 20-70 or whatever a kit lens will be, and it's a 3.5 and it's a varying aperture. So as you go up, if you go up to 70, you're already at a 5.6 or a 6.5. That's going to be really hard, especially in a gym where it's already dark, or on a football field on a Friday night. Now, if you're shooting college football and it's daytime out, you can get away with a lot because again, you have usually, unless it's a very cloudy, nasty day or something, you got great lighting. It's in the middle of the day. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Whatever time, wherever you're from, whatever time that football starts. So again, this is really nice for that. Okay, with you could just use whatever during the day. But for me, up here in Ohio, where it seems like it's always nasty, always cold, or always kind of dreary. And again, I shoot a lot of stuff in gyms, and I never know what I'm going to walk into. I go to somebody else's gym, it's super dark. Some gyms are really well lit, and then it's not a problem. And you can go up into, you could have something with a 3.5 or a 4.5 or even a 5.6 or something like that, and you could shoot and it would be fine. Otherwise, you're turning your ISO all the way up, and it's going to be super grainy. So again, I just want to talk a little bit about what I carry, but to break it down, really, whatever camera, and obviously mirrorless is better than DSLR, although if you already have all your stuff for a DSLR, can it do a good job? Absolutely. I've seen people that shoot 20-year-old DSLRs and their stuff looks fantastic. But as a new shooter, a mirrorless is going to track faster, it's going to do everything better, and so it's just much easier. So again, if you're trying to learn and you have the funds to get something, get a mirrorless camera, whatever brand you want to get. But if you're, again, when you're choosing brands, choose a brand that you know you can get a lot of lenses for and that they're relatively inexpensive compared to some of the other ones. Like I know Leica shooters and things like that. You're paying for a lot of the lenses and stuff. There's not as much that you can get and they cost more. But again, if you're a Leica shooter, I think Leicas are super cool. But again, that's why I chose Sony, and two lenses that you really need in your arsenal, no matter where you're at, would be a 20-70 2.8 and a 70-200 2.8 or some variation close to that. Because again, it's almost always low light, and that's what you need to do that. All right, thanks guys. I have a younger kids basketball game coming up in the next couple days that I shot some of the older brothers in high school, and they want me to come and shoot some of the younger people. So it's a paid gig to go shoot 8th grade basketball. My next video will be shooting the 8th grade basketball, where I'm sitting and things like that. So again, thanks guys. Talk to you later.